On Father's Day, I spent the morning preparing a backyard BBQ, excited to celebrate with my son and daughter-in-law. But by noon, the food was cold, and no one came. When I called, my son laughed. "Dad, we never got an invitation." Then I saw their post. They were celebrating with my daughter-in-law's father at a luxury restaurant, writing thank you to the only father who truly values his children and never uses being busy as an excuse. I said nothing. I picked up my keys and made one decision they would never see coming. Before we go any further, thank you for being here. You chose to stay, and that means something to me. I'm Silent Dad Revenge, and I want to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching tonight? City, state, country? Tell me below. Some details in this story are fictional, crafted for reflection and storytelling. Names and locations are coincidental. The message, however, is one I hope you carry with you. I started the grill at 6 in the morning. Margaret always said I seasoned the ribs too early, that the salt drew out the moisture before the heat had a chance to seal it in. She was right about most things, but old habits are stubborn, and on Father's Day I wanted the house to smell like something was coming, like the day had a reason to show up. I worked the rub in with both hands the way she taught me. Dry mustard, raw honey, a pinch of cayenne for the back of the throat. The kind of heat you don't feel until 3 seconds after you swallow. I'd been making it the same way for 31 years, and I still got it wrong sometimes. This morning, I got it right. I could tell by the color. Dorothy Mills came through the side gate around 8, same as she did most Sundays. She was 68 years old and had lived next door since before Nathan was born. She and Margaret used to sit on the back steps every Saturday morning with coffee and the kind of conversation that didn't need to go anywhere to mean something. After Margaret passed, Dorothy kept showing up. She never said why. She didn't have to. She set a tin of shortbread on the porch railing and looked at the grill. "Nathan coming today?" she asked. I pulled my phone out of my back pocket and held it up so she could see the screen. A text from Nathan's number, sent the night before. "We'll be there by 11, Dad. Promise." Nathan always texted late. He worked Pacific time and kept odd hours. A message at 11 at night from his number was nothing unusual. I had no reason to look twice at it. Dorothy smiled the way people smile when they want something to be true. "Good," she said. "You made enough for an army." "I made enough for 3, I said. "But I cook like it's an army." Margaret used to say that too. She laughed and took a piece of shortbread from the tin, handed me one, and we stood there in the morning quiet while the coals caught and the smoke started to rise, and everything felt for a little while like it was exactly where it was supposed to be. I didn't know then that Vivian, Nathan's wife, had sent that text from Nathan's phone while he was asleep, that she had typed the words, pressed send, and deleted the message from his outbox before he woke up. Nathan used his laptop for almost everything. He checked his phone maybe twice a day, usually to call me back. She knew that. She had known it for years. But at 8 in the morning on a Sunday in June, I knew none of that. I just knew the coals were hot and the ribs smelled right, and my son was coming home at 11. 11 came. The gates stayed closed. Nathan ran late every time he drove up from the city. Once he showed up at 2 in the afternoon for a noon lunch and acted like nothing had happened. I'd learned not to read into it. I kept the heat low and told myself traffic on the 680 was bad on weekends, which was true enough to believe. By noon, I'd moved the ribs to the upper rack to rest. By 1 o'clock, I tried his number. It went straight to voicemail, which meant his phone was either dead or face down on a counter somewhere. I left no message. I never knew what to say to a machine. By 2 o'clock, the coals had gone gray, and the yard had that flat, finished feeling that afternoons get when whatever you were waiting for isn't coming. My chest felt tight in a way that had nothing to do with the heat. I sat down in the chair beside the grill, the one Margaret used to drag out every summer, the aluminum one with the fraying webbing on the armrest, and I called again. This time, he picked up. There was music behind him, low, smooth, the kind that cost money to listen to, the clink of glassware, a woman laughing somewhere near the receiver, bright and practiced like a laugh that had been used before. "Oh." Nathan's voice came through easy, almost cheerful. "Did you have plans today, Dad? We never got any invitation. Vivian said you texted that you were busy with a woodworking order. Didn't you?" I held the phone against my ear and looked at the grill. The ribs were gray at the edges now. The sauce had dried into a dark crust along the bone. I had been tending that fire since 6 in the morning, and my son was calling it a misunderstanding from somewhere with tablecloths. "I'll call you back," I said. I didn't call him back. Instead, I opened Facebook, something I did maybe once a week, mostly to see Dorothy's garden photos and the occasional update from Marcus. The first thing on my feed was a post from Vivian's account, uploaded 2 hours earlier. A photographed Nathan and Vivian at a table, dressed with linen and small candles glasses, raised laughing. Across from them, a man I didn't recognize, well-dressed, somewhere in his mid-50s, pleased with himself in the way of someone accustomed to being photographed. The caption read, "Best Father's Day ever. Thank you to the only father who never uses busy as an excuse. Some people just know how to show up." 43,000 likes. A blue check mark on the account name. I set the phone face down on the armrest of Margaret's chair. I sat there long enough for a fly to land on the ribs and leave again. Then I picked up my keys. I hadn't been inside a restaurant since Margaret's last birthday. She had ordered the salmon and said it was too salty and eaten every bite. I thought about that on the way to the car. I didn't bring an appetite. I brought my wallet. The restaurant was called Pacific Garden, and it sat on the ground floor of a building in uptown Oakland that had probably been a bank in a previous life. High ceilings, dark wood, paneling, the kind of lighting that made everyone look like they were being interviewed for something important. I sat in the parking lot for 2 minutes with the engine running, reading the name on the sign above the door. Margaret would have hated it. She always said restaurants that didn't put prices on the outside menu were charging you for the ambiance, not the food. I got out of the truck and went inside anyway. The first thing I saw was the camera rig. A man in a black shirt stood behind a tripod near the center of the room, adjusting a light panel that was already bright enough to read a book by. 2 assistants moved around a table draped in linen, straightening glasses, repositioning a vase. A banner along the back wall read, "Pacific Table Restaurant Group," in clean gold letters. The whole room smelled like money and sesame oil. Vivian was standing near the far wall with her phone raised checking angles. She was wearing a white dress with her hair down and her face arranged in the careful, pleasant expression she used when she was working. She saw me the moment I cleared the host stand. Her expression didn't fall. It hardened. She crossed the room fast, cutting between tables, and grabbed my arm just below the elbow. Her fingers were stronger than I expected. She steered me toward the far side of a column near the entrance out of the camera's sightline. And when she spoke, her voice was low and clipped, and about as warm as the parking lot asphalt. "What are you even doing here?" She glanced back toward the camera and then fixed her eyes on me, and there was nothing behind them that resembled embarrassment. Only calculation. "Today the restaurant is sponsoring my father for a brand shoot. Do you understand what that means? There are contracts involved. There are deliverables." Her gaze dropped to my shirt, the flannel one with the paint on the left cuff, and something moved across her face that she didn't bother hiding. "You show up dressed like that. You walk into this frame, you will ruin the entire shoot. The brand will pull the deal. Do you have any idea what that costs?" She released my arm and took 1 step back, chin up. "Go home. I mean it." I looked at her for a moment. My arm was still warm where her hand had been. Then I walked around her. I heard her sharp intake of breath behind me, but she didn't follow. She couldn't follow, not with the camera running. I walked through the center of that restaurant the same way I walked through my own yard, steady, unhurried, taking up exactly the amount of space I had always occupied. The camera operator tracked me without meaning to the way cameras track movement. I reached the table and looked at the man sitting across from where Nathan was standing with a glass in his hand. Mid-50s. Suit jacket, no tie. A face that had learned over the years to look comfortable in photographs. "Happy Father's Day," I said. I didn't know his name yet. I said it to be decent, not to be friendly. A server appeared at my elbow with a leather bill folder. The server didn't ask whose party it was. He saw a card on the tray and did his job. I reached into my back pocket and took out my wallet. The card I pulled was the primary account, the one I'd been drawing from every month to top up the joint account Nathan and Vivian used for rent, for the car payment, for the hundred small expenses of a life I had been quietly underwriting for 4 years. $2,000 a month transferred on the first, never discussed. I set the card on the folder. The server took it without a word. Nathan's hand tightened around his glass. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Buying lunch," I said. "You don't have to." "I know I don't have to." The server returned. I signed the slip without looking at the total. I didn't need to look. I already knew what I was paying for, and it had nothing to do with the food. I put my wallet back in my pocket and looked at my son. His face was doing several things at once, none of them settling. His jaw was tight, and his eyes were moving between me and Vivian and the camera, and back to me, and I could see him searching for the version of this situation that he could explain to everyone afterward. He had always been good at explanations. He got that from his mother. "Enjoy your meal," I said. I walked back through the restaurant the same way I'd come in. Vivienne was pressed against the column with her phone gripped in both hands, and her face had gone the color of old plaster. She opened her mouth. I kept walking. She couldn't stop me without making a scene on camera. And making a scene on camera was the one thing her contract explicitly prohibited. Back in the truck, I sat for a moment with both hands on the wheel. My heart was hitting harder than I wanted it to. Not from anger, from the particular exhaustion of doing something you should have done years ago and knowing you waited too long. I drove home. I photographed the cold grill, the untouched plates, the ribs nobody ate. Then I opened Facebook and typed one sentence. "Made this myself this morning. Ate alone this afternoon. But thank you, son, for using my card to treat your father-in-law to a nice lunch downtown. Happy Father's Day to me." I posted it. I put the phone face down on the kitchen counter. In 4 minutes, Dorothy Mills had shared it to every neighbor on the block. I was rinsing the grill grates when I heard the first car. Not Marcus's truck. I knew that engine the way it knocked on cold starts and smoothed out after a quarter mile. This was something newer, quieter. It came in fast and stopped hard gravel popping under the tires like it had an argument to make. I set the grates down and dried my hands on my work rag. Marcus Webb had shown up 2 hours earlier with a cooler on his shoulder and 4 young men behind him, all of them carrying something: paper bags, a folding table, a portable speaker that was already playing. Something low and easy. Marcus was 28 now, ran his own small shop over on Treat Boulevard, and still showed up here like he had a standing appointment. He had, in a way. Every Father's Day since he was 19, he'd come by without being asked. He didn't know about Vivian. He came because he always came. The timing was his, not mine. "You didn't have to do this," I told him when he set the cooler down. He looked at me the way young men look at older ones when they think they're being modest about something obvious. "Yeah, I did," he said, and that was the end of that conversation. Sophia Reyes came with him. She'd been his closest friend since community college, back when Marcus was sleeping on the cot in my back room, and she was writing for the school paper. She was a reporter, now worked for the Walnut Creek Patch, covered local stories. She had a small notebook in her canvas bag and the habit of watching rooms before she entered them. She wasn't there as a reporter that afternoon. She was there as Marcus's friend. The notebook was a habit, not an assignment. She asked me weeks later if she could write something. I told her she could write what she saw, nothing more. I liked her for that. Coach Bill Ramsey arrived around 3, same as he did most years. He was 58, had coached Nathan's Little League team for 6 seasons, and had driven Nathan to practice every Saturday morning through the 3rd grade, because I was pulling double shifts at the Blackhawk job site. He didn't stay for speeches. He stayed for the company. By the time Vivian's car came through the gate, there were 14 people in my yard. Nathan got out first. He was still in the clothes from the restaurant-pressed shirt, dark trousers, and he looked like a man who had spent the last 30 minutes rehearsing something. His jaw was set, and his shoulders were squared, and he had the expression of someone who had decided in advance to be reasonable. That expression lasted about 4 seconds. He stopped walking when he saw the yard. His eyes moved across the faces: Marcus, the younger men, Coach Ramsey sitting beside my chair with a can of beer resting on his knee, and something in his chest seemed to drop. "Who are all these people?" he said, but he said it quietly, like he already knew. "Friends," I said. "Yours used to be some of them." Marcus stood up from the bench and raised his can toward Nathan. Not unfriendly, just honest. Nathan stared at him for a long moment, and I watched the rehearsed speech dissolve somewhere behind his eyes. Coach Ramsey didn't stand. He just looked at Nathan over the rim of his can with the patient expression of a man who had watched a lot of boys become a lot of different kinds of men. Marcus had brought a gift. The group had made it together over 3 weekends in his shop. A chair. Oak hand-carved the joinery tight enough that it would outlast all of us. Along the back rail, burned into the wood in careful block letters, "Best father we never had." When Marcus handed it to me, my throat did something I wasn't expecting. I pressed my lips together and ran my thumb along the lettering and didn't say anything for a few seconds, because I didn't trust what would come out. "It's good work," I finally said. Marcus grinned. "Learned from the best." Vivian had come around the front of the car while this was happening. She'd been watching from the gate with her arms crossed, and her weight shifted back, the posture of someone deciding how to re-enter a room she'd been asked to leave. When she saw the chair, something flickered across her face. Not guilt, not quite. More like the look of someone doing arithmetic that isn't coming out in their favor. She reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She opened an app, held the phone up, and when she spoke, her voice had shifted entirely softer, warmer shaped for a microphone. "Guys, I just want to set the record straight. This whole situation is being completely taken out of context, and I think people deserve to hear the full story from someone who was actually there." Nathan's head turned toward her. His face went through something complicated: embarrassment. First, then something harder underneath it, something that had been building pressure for longer than today. Marcus had set the open cooler on the bench between them when he stood up the ice, long since melted to cold water in the afternoon heat. Nathan took 3 steps across the yard and reached for the phone. Vivian pulled it back. "Nathan, I'm live." "I know." He reached again, and this time his hand closed around the phone, and neither of them let go, and for 2 seconds they stood there in a doorway of a decision neither of them had planned for. Then the phone came loose. It left both their hands, at once turned twice in the air, and dropped straight into the open cooler on the bench. The sound it made going in was small and final, like a period at the end of a sentence. The screen went dark under the ice. Vivian made a sound I had never heard from her before. Not a word, just a sound raw and sharp punched out of her before she could shape it into something presentable. Nathan stood over the cooler. His hands were shaking. He pressed them flat against his thighs and stared at the water, like he was trying to decide if what had just happened was real. It was real. I looked toward the gate. A car I didn't recognize had pulled up to the curb outside, a dark sedan engine still running. The driver's door opened slowly, and a man in a suit jacket stepped out and looked across the yard at me with an expression I couldn't yet read from that distance. He started walking toward the gate. Before I tell you who just walked through that gate, and trust me, nobody in that yard saw this coming. Drop the word "woodworks" in the comments so I know you're still with me. Every comment means more than you know. And before we go further parts of this story have been shaped for storytelling purposes. Some details are fictional. If that's not for you, this is a good place to step away. No hard feelings at all. He was maybe 55, built like a man who had worked hard in his 30s and eaten well in his 50s. The suit jacket was good quality charcoal. No tie, the kind of thing you wear when you want to look serious without looking like you're trying. He walked through my gate the way people walk into places they've decided to own before they arrive. Shoulders back, chin level, eyes already moving across the yard like he was taking inventory. He told me later he'd searched Carter Woodworks Walnut Creek on his phone in the restaurant parking lot. The shop has been on Google Maps since 2009. 3 reviews, all from neighbors. Dorothy wrote one of them. Then his eyes found me, and he stopped. Not slowed down. Stopped. Like someone had cut the power to his legs. I watched it happen from across the yard, the way his whole body recalibrated, the way his chin came down and his shoulders dropped half an inch, and his face did something complicated that had nothing to do with the anger he'd arrived with. He stood there at the edge of my yard in his good jacket and his dress shoes on my gravel, and he looked at me the way people look at something they thought they'd lost. Vivian saw him, and her whole face cracked open with relief. "Dad!" She crossed the yard toward him, fast voice climbing. "Dad, finally! Tell him what he did. He staged all of this. He posted that photo to humiliate us. He has no idea what this cost." Raymond Mercer held up one hand without looking at her. She stopped talking. He walked toward me slowly, and with every step, something in his expression shifted, the anger draining out, and something older filling the space behind it. He stopped 3 feet away. His jaw was working like he was trying to find the beginning of a sentence he hadn't prepared. "Walnut Creek Woodworks," he said. His voice had dropped to almost nothing. "You're Elijah Carter. You had a setup on Figueroa Street, Koreatown, 97. I looked at the scar on his right eyebrow, thin, curved the length of a thumbnail. He'd gotten it on his second day helping me when he walked into a cabinet door I'd left open at head height. I'd cleaned it myself with the first aid kit I kept above the utility sink. "I recognized you at the restaurant," I said. "Didn't say anything. Wasn't my place. I wasn't sure it was you until you signed the check and I saw the name. By then the cameras were running and Vivian was already pulling me toward the table. A man surrounded by cameras and contracts isn't the right place for a conversation like that. And I wasn't certain enough. The scar was right. The age was right. But 28 years changes a person. I needed him closer to be sure." Raymond's throat moved. "I was 27 years old. I lost my wallet at the Greyhound station on Alameda Street. Everything was in it, cash ID, bus fare home." He paused, and I could see the memory moving through him the way old ones do when they surface after years underwater. "You gave me the cot in the back room. 7 days of work. $40 cash when I left." "You earned the 40, I said. "You were a hard worker." His eyes went bright in a way that a man his age and his bearing clearly hadn't planned for in a parking lot conversation. He pressed his lips together and breathed through his nose and looked off toward the lumber stacks for a moment before he could look back at me. "I built my first restaurant with that money," he said. "The $40 and what I saved from the 7 days. I've thought about finding you for 20 years. "You didn't owe me anything then," I said. "You don't owe me anything now." "Dad," Vivian's voice had gone sharp again. The relief curdled into something harder. She stepped forward and grabbed Raymond's arm with both hands. "Dad, he's doing it again right now. Can't you see that? He's making you feel sorry for him so you won't take our side. He posted that photo to destroy my brand. Raymond turned to look at his daughter. I had seen that look before. Not on his face, on the faces of fathers in hardware stores and baseball fields and church parking lots, all across 30 years of living in a community. The look of a man who loves his child completely and is ashamed of them at the same time, and has run out of ways to hold both things gently. "Vivian!" His voice was quiet, that particular quiet that is worse than shouting. "I drove here to defend you. I read that post, and I thought someone was treating my daughter unfairly. I was ready to walk in here and say so." He looked at me, then back at her. "This man gave me a floor to sleep on and a week's wages when I was broke and 27 years old and too proud to call home. And you have been using his property as a backdrop to sell cookware and throw pillows without asking his permission." His voice cracked on the last 4 words, not from softness, but from the effort of keeping it level. "You used his yard, his sign. And Elijah, did you know she used something of Margaret's?" I nodded once. "The rocking chair, February." Raymond's face tightened like a fist. He turned back to Vivian. "You used his late wife's chair in a sponsored post." Vivian's mouth opened, then it closed. Her eyes cut to Nathan, who was standing 6 feet away with his arms at his sides and his face gone completely still, the expression of a man listening to a verdict. I didn't. It was just in the background. It wasn't like I. Stop, Raymond said, just the one word. Then I'm sorry, Elijah, for what she did, for showing up here the wrong way, and for taking 28 years to say thank you. He put his hand out. I shook it. Behind us, Nathan made a sound, short, involuntary, like something small breaking. His hands came up and pressed flat against his face, and his shoulders pulled inward, and I understood that my son was holding himself together with considerable effort and not entirely succeeding. Nathan walked away from all of us. Not running, he was too controlled for that, too accustomed to managing how he looked in front of other people. But he moved fast, head down through the side door of the yard and out toward the lumber stacks, where the light was thin and nobody had followed him yet. I watched him go. I gave him 4 minutes. Then I went after him. He was standing with his back to me, one hand pressed flat against the side of the lumber rack. Forehead dropped forward onto his forearm. His shoulders were heaving in slow, deliberate movements, the breathing of a man trying to hold himself inside his own skin. Nathan. He didn't turn around. His voice came out rough, scraped clean of everything he usually kept polished. How long have you known about the posts? About what she was doing with the shop? February, I said. Dorothy showed me the first one. 1 post is a mistake. 2 is a pattern. My attorney told me to wait until we had enough to make the letter impossible to dismiss. 11 posts over 14 months. That's a business practice, not an accident. We waited until the case was airtight. He made a sound that wasn't a word. His fist closed against the lumber rack and then opened again, and I could see the effort that cost him. Why didn't you call me? Because the last time I called you about something Vivian had done, I said you apologized to her for upsetting you. He turned around at that. His eyes were red at the rims and his jaw was tight, and he looked at me with the particular anguish of a man hearing something true that he has been working very hard not to know. Dad, I'm not saying it to hurt you. I'm saying it because it's what happened. He pressed the back of his hand against his mouth. His eyes went bright and wet, and he blinked hard twice like he was trying to push something back down. It didn't work. The tears came anyway, not the dramatic kind, just the quiet, leaking kind that a man gets when he's been holding something too long, and his body simply runs out of places to store it. I knew, he said. His voice broke on the second word. I knew something was wrong. I kept telling myself it wasn't as bad as it looked, that I was being too sensitive, that it was just how she worked, and I was supposed to support that. He laughed, a short, broken sound. I let her send texts from my phone, Dad. I let her manage my calendar, my contacts. I didn't even check my own sent messages. I know, I said. I missed every single thing that mattered. His voice cracked open completely now, and he stopped trying to control it. Your retirement party. Coach Ramsey's surgery. I told myself I was busy, and I was busy taking pictures of my lunch. He pulled in a breath that shook on the way in and shook on the way out. Mom would be ashamed of me. That landed somewhere deep in my chest, in the place I kept Margaret's name. Your mother, I said carefully, was never ashamed of you a day in her life. She was confused by you sometimes. She worried about you often, but she loved you the way she loved everything she built completely and without conditions. I stepped closer. She would not be ashamed. She would be right here, same as me. Nathan pressed both hands over his face and cried, the way grown men cry when they finally let themselves. With his whole body, shoulders shaking, chest caving, all the dignity he'd been carefully maintaining for years coming apart at once. I put my hand on the back of his neck, the way I had when he was small and frightened, and I held it there and let him finish. When he came back up, his face was wrecked and wet and more honest than it had looked in years. I don't know how to fix this, he said. You don't fix it tonight, I said. Tonight, you just stand in it. His phone rang. The sound was jarring, too bright, too normal for what we were standing in. Nathan pulled it from his pocket and looked at the screen. His face changed. It's a San Francisco number. I don't recognize it. Answer it, I said. He answered. He looked at me once uncertain, and then did the thing he almost never did. Any more, he trusted my face instead of calculating the angles. He put it on speaker. I hadn't arranged the timing. Linda Holt's team had been monitoring the situation since the sponsored event collapsed that afternoon. When their legal department flagged Vivian's account, they moved fast. That's standard practice when a brand is exposed to liability. A woman's voice came through level and precise, the voice of someone who delivered difficult news as a professional function. Mr. Carter, this is Linda Holt, Brand Partnerships Director at Pacific Table Restaurant Group. I'm calling regarding your wife's content agreement with our organization. A brief pause, not hesitation, just pacing. The sponsored event this afternoon was abandoned without completion. Our legal team has identified that Ms. Mercer's account has used images of a private residential and commercial property, including signage, the lumber yard, and interior workshop spaces as paid commercial backgrounds, in 11 sponsored posts over the past 14 months, without the documented written consent of the property owner. Under California law, this creates significant liability exposure. Effective immediately, we are terminating the partnership. All outstanding payments are canceled. Please have your representative contact our legal department within 48 hours. The line went dead. Vivian had come around the corner of the yard while Linda Holt was speaking. She was standing at the edge of the lumber stacks, now close enough to have heard every word far enough back that she'd have to commit to approaching. Her face had the gray, stripped look of someone watching a structure they built collapse in real time. I reached into the front pocket of my work apron and took out an envelope. It had been there since 9 that morning. I held it out toward her. My attorney sent that to your management email at 9 o'clock today, I said. 30 days to take down the 11 posts. After that, we file. Vivian took the envelope. Her hands were trembling so badly she had trouble getting a finger under the flap. We walked back into the yard together, Nathan and I, and the difference between the man who had left 5 minutes ago and the man walking beside me now was the difference between a broken bone and a set one. Still painful, but pointing in the right direction. Vivian was standing near the workbench with the open envelope in her hands, reading the letter for the second time. Raymond had moved to the far side of the yard and was talking quietly with Marcus, giving her space or giving himself some, I wasn't sure which. Coach Ramsey sat on the bench with his elbows on his knees, watching the ground with the patience of a man who had waited out longer situations than this. Vivian looked up when she heard our footsteps on the gravel. Something shifted in her face when she saw Nathan beside me, a calculation running and coming up short. She folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and when she spoke, her voice had dropped all its edges. It came out soft, almost gentle, the tone she used in her videos when she was asking her audience to trust her. Elijah, she took a step toward me. I want to apologize. Genuinely. What I did with the shop, I should have asked. I know that. And Margaret's chair. She paused, pressing her lips together like the words cost her something. That was wrong. I understand that now. Another step. If you pull that letter back, I will take every post down myself. Tonight. Every single one. And the card, if you could just keep the account open one more month, just until I can restructure. Vivian, I said. She stopped. I reached into my back pocket and took out my wallet. The card was behind my driver's license where it had lived for 4 years. I pulled it out and held it for a moment. A plain bank card. Nothing remarkable about it. The kind of object you handle 50 times a week without thinking. Then I bent it once sharp, and it snapped clean across the middle. I dropped both pieces into her open palm. The account closes Monday morning, I said. I called the bank this morning before I drove to Oakland. The letter from my attorney stands. I'd made that call 3 weeks earlier in my head. The moment Dorothy showed me the post with Margaret's chair, I knew where this was going. Father's Day was the day I chose to let it finish. Not because I planned a confrontation, because I was done waiting for one that was never going to come on its own. The letter from my attorney had been ready for 3 weeks. I chose Father's Day because it was the only day I was certain they would be somewhere I could find them, and because some endings deserve to happen on a day that means something. I looked at her steadily. But if you need income, the shop pays $15 an hour. Sweeping, sawdust loading, lumber sanding edges. The offer is honest and it is open. Vivian stared down at the 2 pieces in her hand. Something moved across her face. Not the soft, calculated expression from 30 seconds ago, but something rawer, angrier. The look of a person whose last option has just been removed. Her chin came up. Her eyes went to Nathan. Nathan. Her voice shifted again, harder now, stripped of the gentleness. We are leaving. Tonight. I am not spending another hour in this town. She took a breath. If you stay here, I am filing for divorce the moment I get back to the city. The apartment lease is in my name. The car title is in my name. Good luck proving anything else exists. What she didn't say, and probably didn't know, was that California doesn't care whose name is on the title if the money that bought it came from the marriage. The joint savings account Nathan had been contributing to for 4 years was community property under California law. The mediator would sort that out. Vivian was good at performance. She was less good at reading the fine print. The yard went very quiet. Nathan looked at his wife. He looked at her for a long time, and I could see him running through the years. Not the recent ones, not the restaurant and the posts and the card, but the earlier ones. The ones where it had been real, or at least real enough that he'd believed it. I watched my son grieve something while standing completely still, and it was the most adult thing I had ever seen him do. Then he reached up and unclasped the watch from his wrist. It was a Tag Heuer, a gift from Vivian 2 Christmases ago, the kind of thing that comes in a box with its own pillow. He set it on the workbench and left it there. Then he reached into his pocket and held out the car key. Vivian didn't take it immediately. She looked at the key, then at Nathan, then at the watch on the bench, and for one moment her face did something I hadn't seen it do before. It crumpled just at the edges, just for a second, and underneath the strategy and the performance, there was something young and frightened that hadn't been meant for anyone to see. Then it was gone. She took the key. You're seriously choosing sawdust over our life? Her voice was tight, close to breaking, though from anger or grief, I couldn't tell, and I don't think she could either. Nathan's answer came out quiet and clear and final as a nail-set flush. I'm choosing something real. Vivian looked at him once more. Then she looked at me, and whatever she saw in my face didn't give her anything to work with. She turned and walked through the gate, and her heels on the gravel were sharp and fast, and then they were gone. And then the car door, and then the engine, and then the headlights swept across the front of the shop as she turned onto Ignacio Valley Road and drove away. Nathan stood with his hands at his sides and his eyes on the gate long after the sound had faded. His chest rose and fell in the slow, deliberate way of a man remembering how to breathe without holding something up. Coach Ramsey stood up from the bench. He crossed the yard and stopped beside Nathan and put one hand on his shoulder. Firm, brief, the way coaches touch players, when words would be smaller than the moment. Nathan's eyes closed. His jaw tightened. He nodded once. Raymond caught my eye from across the yard. He raised his chin slightly, a small acknowledgement, the kind that passes between men who understand what they've just witnessed and know enough not to name it. I turned and walked back to the shop door and didn't look at the gate again. Before I show you what was inside that tin box, the thing that finally broke my son, open after 30 years, comment the word sawdust below, so I know you made it this far. The people who stay until this moment are the ones who understand what this story is really about. One more thing, as with all stories here, certain elements have been fictionalized to protect and to teach. If you've been with me this long, I think you already know the difference between a story and a lesson, and this one has both. That night I covered the unfinished chair with the drop cloth again. I wasn't ready to look at it yet, but I knew we would be soon. Marcus gathered the cooler and the leftover food without being asked, moving quietly between the tables with the efficiency of a young man who understood when a space needed to be returned to the people it belonged to. Coach Ramsey stopped beside Nathan on his way out, gripped his shoulder once the same grip he'd used on a 10-year-old boy who'd struck out in the final inning of a playoff game and needed to know the world was still turning. Nathan grabbed Coach's forearm with both hands and held it for a moment, his knuckles white, his jaw working. Coach nodded, no words. Some things between men who have known each other a long time don't need them. Raymond paused at the gate. He looked back at me across the empty yard and said, "I'll call you." Not a pleasantry, a promise. I believed him. Then it was just Nathan and me and the shop lights humming overhead, and the smell of sawdust and cold charcoal and the particular quiet of a California evening, when the wind comes down off the hills and everything goes still. Nathan was standing in the middle of the yard with his hands in his pockets, staring at the ground like it owed him an answer. His eyes were dry now, but swollen at the rims, and there was a looseness to his face that I hadn't seen in years, the looseness of a man who has stopped performing and doesn't yet know what's underneath. "Come inside," I said. I took him to the back of the shop, past the table saw and the finishing bench and the wall of hand tools Margaret had organized by size the year we moved in, and that I had never rearranged because they were still perfect. In the far corner, half hidden behind a roll of drop cloth, sat the unfinished chair. Nathan saw it and stopped walking. It was a simple piece white pine mortise and tenon joinery, a curved back rail we'd sketched together on a paper bag from the hardware store. We'd gotten the legs shaped and the seat rough cut before a Little League tournament had pulled Nathan away for a weekend, and then school had started, and then years had happened the way years do when you stop paying attention. "I forgot about this," Nathan said. His voice was hoarse. "I didn't," I said. I crouched down and reached under the workbench beside it. The tin box was where it had always been tucked against the back leg lid, rusted at the hinge small enough to hold in one hand. I set it on the bench and opened it. Nathan hadn't been in this corner of the shop since he was 14. The drop cloth had been covering the unfinished chair for nearly 2 decades. There was no reason for him to go looking, and I had no reason to show him. Some things you keep until the right moment. This was the right moment. Nathan leaned in, then he went very still. Inside, stacked in careful order, were the Father's Day cards. Everyone he had ever made me, from the crayon drawing of a lopsided house at age 6 to the careful pencil sketch of the shop at age 14. The last year he'd made one by hand. 9 cards. 9 years, each one pressed flat and placed with the kind of deliberate care that takes a moment and means a decade. Nathan picked up the first one. His hands were trembling, not the controlled trembling of a man trying to hold himself together, but the raw, unguarded kind that comes when the body encounters something it wasn't prepared for. The drawing was in red crayon, a tall figure and a small figure standing in front of a building with a triangle roof. Underneath, in the large, uneven letters of a 6-year-old, for Daddy. "I love you. Nathan." His breath came out in a long, fractured exhale like something that had been compressed for years, finally releasing pressure. His chin dropped to his chest. His shoulders pulled inward. And then my son, 33 years old, an engineer. A man who had spent the better part of a decade being managed and photographed and curated, sat down on the concrete floor of my shop and wept. Not quietly, not with any of the restraint he'd been carrying all day. He wept with his whole chest, deep and ragged, the kind of crying that leaves a person emptied out and clean. I sat down beside him on the floor. I didn't say anything about forgiveness or second chances or the future. I just sat there on the cold concrete next to my son, close enough that our shoulders were touching, and I let him cry himself through to the other side of it. When he finally came up for air, his face was a wreck, and his eyes were nearly swollen shut, and he looked more like himself than he had in years. "I want to finish the chair," he said. "I know," I said. "I kept the plans." 3 months later, the chair was finished. It sat in the corner of the shop, where the afternoon light came through the west window and hit the wood at the angle that shows you everything. Every joint, every grain line, every place where the sanding had been careful and the places where it had been rushed and gone back over twice. Nathan had done the back rail himself. He'd ruined the first one started over without being told, and the second one was better than anything I would have done at 33. I stood looking at it with my coffee going cold in my hand and felt something settle in my chest that had been loose for a long time. Nathan came through the shop door at 7, same as every morning now. He was in work clothes, old jeans, a flannel shirt with a tear at the left elbow he hadn't bothered to mend. He had sawdust in his hair from the previous evening's session and the particular ease in his shoulders of a man who had stopped carrying something heavy. He handed me a fresh cup and took the cold one out of my hand without asking. "Dorothy called this morning," he said, moving to the chair and crouching to check the rear leg joint with his thumb. "She wants to know if she can bring the Hendersons by this weekend to see the finished piece. Apparently she's been telling the whole street about it." "Dorothy tells the whole street about everything," I said. "She also told me Sophia's article ran in the Chronicle yesterday." He looked up. "Did you see it?" I had seen it. Sophia had called 2 weeks earlier to tell me it was coming, a longer piece picked up from the Walnut Creek patch by the San Francisco Chronicle about what she called the quiet economy of real things. She had asked again if she could use a photograph of me. I had told her the same thing I'd told her in August. I'd spent 64 years building things that didn't need a picture to prove they existed. She laughed and said that was going in the article. It did. There was no photograph of me in the piece. There was no photograph of the shop, the yard, or the chair. Sophia had described everything in words and trusted the reader to see it. The Chronicle ran it as a personal essay, not a news piece. No photo requirement. Sophia told me their editor said a story about a man who refused to be photographed. Worked better without a photograph. I thought that was about right. I thought Margaret would have liked that very much. "Raymond called last Sunday," I said. Nathan nodded, running his palm along the seat surface, checking for roughness. "I know. He told me. He's serious about the scholarship, wants to fund 2 apprenticeships through Marcus's shop starting in January." Raymond had been in the restaurant business for 28 years. When he decided something, he moved. He told Nathan he'd been thinking about a trade scholarship for years and had never found the right place to put it. Marcus's shop was the right place. "Marcus deserves it," I said. "Yeah." Nathan stood up and looked at the chair from a standing height the way you look at finished work when you're deciding if it's actually finished. His eyes moved across the joinery, the proportions, the way the back rail curved. Then something in his face relaxed completely, the last small tension going out of it. "It's good, Dad. It's good." I agreed. He picked up his coffee and leaned against the workbench, and for a minute we just stood there in the morning light with the shop smelling of walnut oil and fresh coffee and the birds starting up outside and the sound of Ignacio Valley Road beginning its day in the distance. "Divorce paperwork came through on Thursday," Nathan said, not heavily. "Just as information the way you report a weather front that has passed. Mediator said it should be straightforward. California splits community property down the middle. The apartment lease was always in her name, but the savings account was joint. Comes out fair." "You have a good attorney?" I asked. "Coach's daughter," he said. "She does family law in Walnut Creek. A good woman, very direct." "Good," I said. On the refrigerator behind me, held up by a magnet shaped like the state of California that Nathan had bought at a gas station on the drive back from a lumberyard run in September, was a photograph. Dorothy had taken it on a disposable camera, one of the ones Marcus had bought for the Father's Day party, and never opened because everyone had been too busy talking. She had developed the roll last month and dropped the prints off without warning the way Dorothy did everything. In the photograph, Nathan and I were bent over the chair together, both of us checking the same joint from different angles, faces close to the wood. Neither of us had known we were being photographed. Neither of us was performing anything. We were just working. I looked at that photograph every morning over coffee, and it told me the same thing every time. Not a lesson, not a moral. Just a fact, plain and sufficient. The best things don't need an audience to be real. They just need to be built. The morning I'm telling you about started the same way most of my mornings start. 6 o'clock. The shop light on before the sun was fully up. Coffee in the old blue mug Margaret had bought at a roadside stand in Mendocino 20 years ago, chipped at the rim. Now the glaze worn thin on one side from 30,000 mornings of the same hand holding it the same way. I stood at the kitchen window and looked out at the yard and let the coffee do what coffee does. The chair was visible through the shop door, which Nathan had left open the night before when he'd come by to put another coat of oil on the back rail. It sat in the corner where the light hits it, right in the late afternoon, the same spot Margaret used to put her houseplants, rotating them toward the window every few days because she said plants needed to be reminded which direction the sun came from. I thought she was right about that, too. About most things. Dorothy came by around 8 with a newspaper folded under her arm and a look on her face that meant she had information she was pleased to be delivering. She set the paper on the porch railing and tapped it twice with one finger. "Page 7, she said. "Letters to the editor. 3 of them. All about Sophia's article." We stood on the porch and read them together. The first was from a woman in Pleasant Hill who said the story had made her call her father for the first time in 4 years. The second was from a contractor in Concord who said he'd been thinking about quitting his trade and had changed his mind. The third was 4 sentences, no name, just a zip code I recognized as downtown Oakland. My daughter showed me this article last week. I built my first restaurant with $40 and 7 days of honest work. I forgot that for a long time. I'm trying to remember it again. I folded the paper and looked out at the yard. "Raymond," Dorothy said. "Raymond," I said. She patted my arm once firm brief, then took her coffee and went back through the gate. I stood there a while longer with the morning coming up warm around me. Nathan called at 9. "Coach wants to know if you're coming to the scrimmage this afternoon. 2 o'clock. Shadelands." "I'll be there," I said. A pause. Then, "Dad, Raymond's people called Marcus this morning. Scholarship funds cleared. 2 apprenticeships starting January. Full stipend, tools included." His voice had that quality it got when he was trying to sound casual about something that mattered. "Marcus wants to call it the Carter Apprenticeship." My throat did the thing it had been doing more often lately, tightening up without warning over small things that turned out not to be small at all. "Tell him yes," I said. "Already did," Nathan said. I could hear him smiling through the phone. "The real kind. The kind that didn't need to be photographed to count. Vivienne. I should tell you what I know. The last I heard, she was living in Santa Monica, working the floor at a restaurant on Main Street, hosting seating people, writing orders on a paper pad. Someone who knew someone told Dorothy, who told me. I don't know if it's true. I hope it is not because I want her to struggle, but because I know what honest work does to a person over time. It builds something in you that nothing else can build. She might find that useful. The posts with my shop in them came down within the 30 days my attorney had specified. Her account still exists, but sparse now, fewer photographs. Each week the comments thinner. The audience that had built itself around a version of a family that didn't exist was slowly finding other things to look at. That's how it works. Performances end. The stage stays. Someone else sets up their lights. After Nathan hung up, I walked back into the shop and stood in front of the chair for a long time. Ran my thumb along the back rail. Nathan's work, the second attempt, the one he'd gotten right. It was solid. It would last. I said her name out loud. I don't do it often. It still costs something every time. But the chair was in the spot where her plants used to be, and the morning light was on it the way she would have arranged it herself. It seemed like the right moment to spend what it cost. "Margaret," I said, "you would have liked this chair." The shop didn't answer. Shops don't. But the light moved a little as a cloud passed outside the west window, and the grain of the pine went warm for a moment, almost golden, before it settled back. The door opened. Nathan came through with 2 cups of coffee and looked at me standing in front of the chair with my hand on the back rail. He didn't ask what I'd been doing or saying. He just handed me the cup. Ready, Dad, he said. I took the coffee. I looked at my son's sawdust still in his hair from last night. Work boots, already on the ease in him that had been missing for years, sitting comfortably in his shoulders now, like it had always belonged there. Been ready since 6, I said. I am not a man who talks much, but I will say this much plainly before I go. I spent 4 years funding a performance I was never invited to watch. I told myself it was love. It wasn't. It was habit dressed up as loyalty. If someone in your life is treating your dignity like a prop, don't wait 4 years. Put the card away sooner than I did. God gave you a quiet voice inside that knows the difference between being loved and being used. Listen to it earlier than I did. This is what I believe after 64 years of building things with my hands. Family justice is not loud. It does not post. It does not trend. A revenge dad makes noise. I made a chair. I held a door open for people who didn't deserve it, because I deserved to be that kind of man. That is family justice. That is the only revenge dad story worth telling. The one where nobody loses their dignity, including you. And if quiet family justice like this reaches your heart, share it with someone who needs it today. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you would have done at that gate. Subscribe so you never miss the next Revenge Dad story on this channel. Thank you for staying until the end. The stories here contain fictional elements crafted for reflection and understanding. If this kind of storytelling isn't for you, no hard feelings, step away and find what fits. But if it is, we'll see you in the next one.